I gotta fix that. It's kind of like glitching out. I don't like when it's always like. I gotta fix that. It's kind of like glitching out. I don't hiding. I'm hiding. You don't see me. Like when it's always like. I gotta fix that. It's kind of like glitching out. I don't hiding. We got hiding. You don't see me. Like when we got details. We got issues here. Technical issues. That's okay though. Welcome to the Fake Truth Show, guys. It's gonna be good. I swear. I swear it's gonna be good. Nice. All right. So that's what's up. It's the Fake Truth Show. This is gonna be a news briefing, and it's gonna start in 10 seconds. So, if you like this thing, if you're into the news or crypto or whatever, we're starting right now. Like right now. It's literally right now. It's happening. Okay, so, I don't know if you guys have heard, there's like a, what do they call it again? Election, that's what they call it. There's some big thing happening in America. I'm not sure if you're like familiar with every country in the world's like political system, but America has a pretty complex way of like selecting their leaders. You got to go through all these different states and ballots and electorates and a bunch of other sort of nonsense. And I'm not saying it so they can like fake everything and adjust the vote totals, on the way to the path to the person that they're picking. But it definitely does seem like a good way to be able to do that, right? We're in the 21st century as far as I can tell. And we're sort of so like long past the point where we could have digitized literally all of it, put it on the blockchain, and make it trustless and uncrackable who you're voting for. You could do it online. And we could be doing it that way, right? Or we could be doing it where we just mail pieces of paper into the mail, and there's no sort of real checks and balances on, did I actually fill that out, or did I ask my mom to do that and send it in? Or did I just sort of find out who was living in my area, figure out their birth date and address, and go vote for that person? I'm not saying that happens. I'm just saying theoretically possible. But I guess that's on everybody's minds these days. What's going to happen with the selection or coronation or whatever you want to call it? But I'm kind of fascinated here. We're going to hit refresh here on my good old feed to see what's coming up. And just in the run up to this election, and especially now in the weird aftermath, because definitely like buckle in. We're going to be in this weird, bizarre aftermath phase probably for at least a couple weeks, and then there's going to be an aftermath of the aftermath. I have no doubt about that. But in the run up to the election, just this whole period, I found it very curious when I was looking at my feed here. Just how few of the articles were actually election related, right? Talking about a lot of other sort of issues, disease related and other things. But normally, at least in my memory, when we are heading into this coronation phase, that's sort of all anybody can talk about, and that's all you can read about, and it's just sort of plastered front to back. And it's not like they weren't talking about it like at all. It was definitely being talked about, but not in the same sort of intensity and frequency. And maybe that was just what the lessons learned from 2016, that if you push it everywhere and you have a super lame bad candidate, that everybody starts to notice more and more how super lame and bad that person is, and that can be problematic. So if you again run a super lame bad possible horrible person, then maybe if you just don't talk about that person too much, don't give them too much screen time, press time, cameos in certain shows, that maybe people won't notice so much that guy is an absolute monster and should not be running a convenience store, much less the country. That seems to be the tactic, at least as far as I can tell. But when we look down here through the list, right, it's a lot more talking about, right, Congress members. Everybody's excited about AOC getting elected again. Talking about military, right? That's already two of the articles here on my short list, and right, this is really just a snapshot. That's sort of what I'm interested in doing here on the show. I can't really, properly research what is happening at this exact second in time. We just need to pull up the charts and sort of look at it together. And always interested to hear what you guys think and say about the current topics, because surprisingly enough, you guys listening at home actually have more freedom to speak about the issues that I'm bringing up here than I do, right? Because I really have to. It's the good old, what do we call it? YouTube gulag censor land. Whatever you guys write in the comments is less a chance of getting censored than if I say something too specific or too edgy about any of these topics that we're bringing up. So yeah, as always, curious to hear what you guys think at home. I did find this very interesting, right? Mr. Biden breaks record for most votes in history for any presidential candidate. The previous record was Barack Obama. And I'm not even going to click on that link, but that definitely is an interesting talking point to be sending out. That this weird old dude that is obviously super senile and not exciting in any meaningful sense has received the most votes of anybody ever in the history of America. That is definitely an interesting talking point to be spreading out, right? But we're definitely also seeing a lot about these four women and how they all got reelected. That's definitely great for the narrative that these diverse women are pushing through, and we're getting rid of all those stupid old dumb racist white males that just are too important in our society. We got to get rid of almost all of them, possibly murder some of them. That would be just fine. But that seems to be what's going on in the politics, right? As we sort of, this is really good. I picture this going on possibly until next year, that we're going to be fighting about, well, how many votes were tallied there in Wisconsin, and obviously people were messing with X, and just this whole idea of the election being chaotic and possibly causing a civil war after the fact has been seeded not by me, right? I haven't been on here as often, not specifically by me, but by all of these major media outlets. It's a message that they've been sending and screaming from the rooftops now for months, that, right, instead of talking about the actual candidates, talking about how much stress and problems are going to be caused by this disease-impacted election, right, with all the mail-in ballots, and how much sort of fighting and misunderstandings there are going to be there, right? They're triple checking the results, but already there's obviously a lot of messaging from both sides about how, right, these totals are getting adjusted, or how we should not be listening to them quite yet. If somebody is winning that we don't necessarily like now, that we really just have to wait until we get all the results in, and then we'll know for sure, right? And that's definitely the narrative that is getting pushed from the T-Man side, that obviously this gives the Democrats time to mess with the numbers and adjust things. And, well, I'm not going to say what's actually happening. I have no idea. I'm not at these polling locations. I have no direct contact to any actual political entities. So I'm not going to say I don't know what's happening. I'm curious in the narratives and the waves that are getting pushed around, right? And so there's a lot of fear and uncertainty about what's going to happen here. And this is obviously interesting as well, right? This is supposed to be my science and tech section, but it's politics front to back, right? Science and tech, Republican politician dies of disease, ballot count live stream is the only thing worth watching. What if Facebook is the real silent majority? Like, meh. Senate. And I guess there is a little bit of science news. This I did find really interesting in our last couple seconds here, because I did title the video with this. Mysterious radio signal is coming from inside our galaxy. It's coming from inside the house. It's coming from inside the house. Wait, did I have my, I had this voice was on the whole time, right?
This guy wasn't talking the whole time, right? Because this guy's kind of hard to understand. Like, this guy should enunciate more.
Yeah, you gotta really say your words clearly, dude. It's hard for people to understand you.
Well, don't make fun of me. That's not really my fault that my voice sounds like this. Shut up.
All right. Anyways, radio signals. So, right, all these narratives take so much time to set up and execute and really insert into your brain. And, well, I have to flash back to thinking, playing alien video games was when I was a small child. This whole idea that we're not alone in the universe is not a fringe, weird idea. This is a mainstream idea that has been pushed on us for decades at this point, multiple decades, right? Astronomers are finding these fast radio bursts, and apparently that's a sign that this is possibly something made by humans and not just a random star rock thing. It's or not humans, they're aliens. It's somebody with advanced technology. So maybe the aliens are coming next year. It's hard to say. Maybe Biden's gonna get elected. I really don't want to prognosticate too much about what's actually going to happen in the world, because it's just really hard to tell at this point. What I can tell is what the narratives are and what is seen as important to think about and talk about. And right, maybe fast radio bursts and aliens are not as important as the election and everything that's going on. But I always find that interesting to track these trends, and I really do see something coming out of all of these thousands of articles about asteroids and fast radio bursts, right? This is just another drop in the bucket of the literally thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of articles just written this year about, possible rock alien thing out there. Well, maybe what if, guys? What if? But anyways, I'm eating into my chart time here. So, right, if you're not a big fan of the cryptocurrencies, well, then this might not be the section for you. But what can I say? This is where everything is headed in this world, and I would still suggest that you stick around because all aspects of the cryptocurrency land and everything that's going on here are deeply intertwined with all of our favorite narrative and conspiratorial tactics, right? I think this whole concept of having a trustless, sort of decentralized system of finance has been deeply seated and is constantly talked about in the mainstream news. There's a reason why everybody knows what a Bitcoin is and what's going on there in sort of the vaguest sense. And well, I think it's all headed someplace. And yeah, that's sort of my new mission here is if we can talk about the truth, we can figure out and get to the bottom of all that. But if we're able to sort of slip into the money-making aspects of the grand narrative, then I say why not, right? That's it. That's the biggest sort of fuck you we could give to the controllers out there, is to figure out what their plans are ahead of time and make sort of a sliver of profit that they're making as well. So, why not? But I do have to halt the show for a second here because Snafu Snaps just showed up in the chat, and that's my homie, dude. Snafu, it's good to hear from you. I hope you're well. I know you've been going through some shit, and I have as well. That's why I haven't been here on the channel. But that's the thing about, especially Truth Brotherhood and everybody that has given me the chance to talk to them. It's a strong bond, and Snafu, I know we haven't talked in a second, but that bond is forever. I'm afraid so. And we're gonna have to talk about the future and what's going on there, because we're stronger together. That's sort of my whole thing constantly. They're always trying to divide us and split us apart. The election is no different, and we should come together. And I think we could come together through telling the future a little bit. as far as what's going on here, right? So I've been talking about this a couple days in the past, and that would be sort of my goal here, is to keep you guys up to date on what's happening here, right? And so if you're not familiar with the charts and all of that, we like to look at these on different time scales, right? So right now I have it on the daily chart, and that would mean that each one of these little candles, they're called, these little lines, that represents a full day in the life of this particular cryptocurrency. And this is Bitcoin that we're looking at, which is sort of the most important one to look at, because it's the price and sort of life of all the other coins lives and dies based on what Bitcoin is doing. And if we just zoom out just real quick here, I'd love to zoom out to, like, well, that's way too far actually. What's been happening sort of this year, right? So we started off in 2020, and it was really sort of going someplace. We were almost at about 10,000 there, and this is when the good old disease showed up, everybody's favorite moment in time, and that was around March. And well, it sold off like insanity, just like the rest of the stock market did. I think it hit what was the lows? Probably somewhere around 4,000, right? So it lost more than half its value during that dip, that huge sell-off. But the thing about investing and trying to make money, I'm on the fence. It's difficult because you really do need to get into that evil, world-controlling lizard brain thought process that most of us try to reject. And it can be interesting to think in that way. And right, I think you can understand your adversaries a little bit better, but the basic thought process would be, right, that when you see suffering, when you see blood in the streets, when you see people in huge amounts of fear and distress, right? I remember how my brain was working around March. I thought the whole thing was going to fall through the floor. The stock market and everything else was going to crash, and I was going to have to grab a shopping cart and just go searching for food and shelter pretty soon. And so that's usually, right, that time when your mind is just melting with fear and uncertainty. Well, that's what made everybody sell their shit. But if you know, in hindsight is 2020, as we love to say, if you had the wherewithal to realize what was happening here, you could look at these charts and these different sort of indicators and realize, well, sort of around here, oh, it's actually gonna head back up from here, and you would have been able to buy in here around, you know, in March. But right, like I'm saying, that's when everybody's brain was just completely melting out, and we weren't sure if it was ever coming back. But the smart money, and I'm sure tons of evil lizard people were investing at that time, right? And if you were able to get in someplace around there when the indicator was telling you this is a good time to get back in, then right, that's 140% back up, where we have passed that initial sort of high that was there before the disease happened. And we passed that actually last month, sort of in August. And that's what got everybody sort of very excited about what was happening here, right? This sort of explosion that happened in a sort of August, July, September. It really got to a very high number. We were up around the 1200s, and that was very exciting for a lot of people to see that sort of growth happening. But right, and I'd like to talk a little bit more, because I don't hear this much from other sort of crypto influencers, sort of the more mystical, symbolic meaning behind all of this, and what's going on there, right? And so these lines that we see, it depends on your knowledge base here, but these lines are just sort of showing the averages in different values. And the basic concept is that right here, when the crash happened, right, that is obviously bad. When the lines are above the candles, that's when tough times are happening, and that's usually when everybody sells and gets out of there. And in the same sense, right, when these lines get too far away, when the actual candles are going too far away, especially from this deep red lowest line, that's when people are getting a little bit too excited, right? And then there's a good chance that people are going to end up selling, because, well, there's just not really that many people still interested in this market, and that's what makes me interested as well, because that seems to be the way to get ahead in life, right? Where you can find something that is super awesome and possibly the future. Like, I don't know, investing in computers in the 80s or something. And that's when you really get to make that sort of life-changing generational wealth generation, right? We're not talking about just adding $20 or so to your account. We're talking about like exploding your whole bank account and making you more money than you could possibly earn in your current situation. And all you have to really do is make the right decisions ahead of time and sort of think about how people think. And right, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I am not that. I'm actually not that great with money. So, right, take that with a grain of salt as well. But all that being said, right, we are on this huge sort of upwards trajectory. We have passed the highs that we had there before the disease, and just in these last couple of days, it's really been exploding. The number is getting very high, right? We're getting to 14,000. It's a very high number, and the number that's in everybody's minds, that really once we pass this number, you're going to start seeing news articles left and right and everybody talking about it again, is this magic number of about 20,000, right? Because that's what it reached. This was December 2017, and that's the number it reached when everybody was just going insane about it. And that's when they started writing all the articles and everybody was talking about, oh, did you get some Bitcoin? It went to 20K. It's a huge deal. And that's exactly when all the dumb regular people get in there. That's when all the smart money, all the investors know, well, this is when we got to take profits because these losers don't have the cash to pump this any higher. We're going to dump them. We're going to dump it on them, right? And that's a lot of people did invest like right around this peak and then ended up just losing insane money. And that's a tough time. That's a difficult phase to be in. But we are gonna have to move on. Oh, it looks like I moved my thing. Man, there's just so much technical garbage to work through when producing this show, and I guess I could spend all day messing with this stuff, and it still wouldn't look perfect. But maybe that's just part of the aesthetic of this show, that it's not perfect, right? Yeah, I'm not perfect. You guys aren't perfect. I don't think anybody expects any of this to be perfect. But I am trying to show up and say what's up to you guys. So I appreciate your attention and time. Good to see you guys out there. So anyways, that's my new format here. I always want to look at the king here of the coins in that weather format, because this guy really decides sort of where everything is headed, right? And we are sort of really on this huge uptrend, and I definitely do see it passing this number, right? We're right there at that previous high, and once we get up to this number, and it really isn't that far away from here, right? From where we were just now in March to where we are now is much farther than we'll have to travel to get to this high number. And I'm assuming, I really do have to assume some things every once in a while, when we get to this number, that everybody is just gonna fucking lose their mind, right? And there's talks of projections, right? I don't even want to say 100,000, 250,000 per Bitcoin. And that's the thing. If you even put $10 at this thing, you're going to get a pretty decent return on it. And just in general, if we really zoom out, and I'm going to change the chart to the weekly, right? So we can really see the full chart. Ever since 2015, this thing has just been going up. And as you can see on that time when everybody went nuts, that it went pretty far away from the lines, and obviously had to come back down to earth. And it's the cycles, you know. It's sort of what I'm always talking about on with the conspiracy stuff. If the cycles are everywhere, right? The solar cycles, the larger sort of precession of the equinox cycles, all the way down to our sort of political cycles, your own sort of personal body cycles. Everything goes in these cycles, and you gotta pay attention to them, right? You can try to work against them, but you're often going to get hurt if you do that. And well, the market is no different, and it is sort of a study in human psychology, because that's all it really is. It's people thinking, well, I think it's going to go up. The numbers could go up probably, and then they put money in there, and it's these cycles of fear and then greed that just go back and forth. And I think these cycles are as old as time. And yeah, yeah, like I'm saying, you can try to fight them, or you can work with them. So, anyways, that would be sort of the main chart, our favorite friend, Mr. Bitcoin. But I would like to look at a couple other charts here with you. I'm probably going to get more specific in future shows. But since so much of my audience is, I'm not sure what your proficiency and understanding is with all of this crypto stuff. I am sort of starting over from the beginning a little bit and just explaining the basics of what's going on, right, in this whole scene, because I didn't know about this stuff. I had to watch a ton of YouTube videos. So yeah, here I am trying to pass down this information because I want you to have a good life in every aspect, right? I don't want you to be tricked by the controllers and think that the election is real. I don't want you to think that you need to feel bad about just living in this world and driving a car every once in a while. And I want you to know the truth about the finances, that the financial markets are going to collapse. It's going to happen in the next, I don't want to say exactly, but definitely within the next decade. By the time we get to 2030, I can almost guarantee that we're going to be on a digital currency system. And right, but we're not there quite yet. And our path to that place is going to be rocky. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of fear. There's got to be a lot of pain probably. But if you're able to make intelligent decisions, you could end up in a much different economic situation than you are right now. And that's what I'm hoping for myself, and I'm hoping that for you as well. And right, don't just listen to me either. You really have to do your own research and figure it out for yourself. But that's something I would be interested in, is inspiring people to go and do said research and try to figure it out, right? So anyways, this is really like cryptocurrency 101, right? Everybody really knows about Bitcoin, but the sort of number 2 spot would go to Ethereum, which is, it's not the same, right? You would think, oh, it's just another coin. It's sort of meh. But if I give you sort of the really basic breakdown of it, basically in this coin, you're able to sort of write basic code into the coin itself, and the code looks a lot like web HTML code, right? It's pretty basic, and almost anybody can actually, if you have some sort of computer knowledge, you can learn how to code for Ethereum. And what they call it is a smart contract. It's something that the same as Bitcoin basically lets you trade this back and forth, but through this coding, you're able to make it do all sorts of crazy things, right? Like maybe pay the person that created the coin an extra 10% on every transaction, or pay everybody that owns the coin an additional 10% every time they trade. And all sorts of crazy games are popping up because Ethereum itself is just sort of the base coin that is created an entire ecosystem, really, of coins. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different coins that use Ethereum as their basis for their own coin. And what they like to call those other coins are ERC20 coins, because they're built on this ERC20 contract system, right? But Ethereum is sort of the king that is overlapping everything else, basically almost everything else in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, right? And so you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with these contracts, and people are getting pretty experimental these days, right? Saying things like, and these are really sort of experiments in economics and economic systems, saying, well, as opposed to our federal system where they just print money infinitely and supply just keeps going up and up, right? That's what the Fed does basically every day. They just print, and then they print more money, and then they print some more money. It's just an endless sort of money printing system, and that's why I know for a fact that inevitably that is going to crash, because just like I was talking about before, things go in cycles, and you can't just have it go up forever. That's just not sustainable, and that's not following the natural law, the principles of the world, right? Things don't just go up and up forever. The sun doesn't stay out forever. It does have to go down eventually. And right, if we look at this chart for Ethereum, right, it definitely had like a massive uptrend, and then it had to go down for a couple of years. That's just part of the cycles, right? But again, if we just talk about price for a second here, this peak lines up pretty well with the same peak that Bitcoin had. It's a little bit later, but we reached to about the people say about 1,400. Not as much as Bitcoin, obviously, but for this token is just incredibly important, and a lot of people are going to continue to use it because, right, literally everything else on this list I have over here on the side is almost everything on this list is built upon this coin, right? And so I think that's important to understand sort of the hierarchy system of this whole market. And so, right, it's the same as Bitcoin. We have not reached back to these highs that we had before, and the chart looks very similar. If we switch back to the daily, to what happened with Bitcoin, right? This is March of this year, absolute total crash out. And if you were smart enough to not be scared of the world collapsing, you would have invested here and made pretty decent returns as well. But since the price isn't as high as Bitcoin, right? We're talking about in the $100 to $400 range at this point. You would have made a lot more money if you had bought Ethereum as opposed to Bitcoin, right? That's almost 230%. And that's sort of the point. There is a lot of risk that's involved in trading cryptocurrency, but there isn't a bank in the world that's going to give you those kinds of returns, right? If you bought just in March, you would have doubled your money. That's a pretty decent investment, I would say. That's what I would say. And God, there's just so much more I want to get to, but I can't just chill on this thing forever. I gotta go live my life, and what can I say?
I also wanna do the auto-tune. I think it's kind of funny, and it doesn't really matter what you think, because it's my show. I can do what I want with my show. I can completely change the format and just start talking about something completely different. And it's not like I don't appreciate you guys and all the support you're giving me already, but like, I'm in a different place in my life now, and I just wanna get different information out there, and I also don't wanna get banned for life, right? I'm trying to make a show that won't get banned, cause I don't wanna get banned.
Cool. So, that was that episode. I mean, honestly, I don't really super know what I'm doing. I don't know what the future brings. I may be moving, I may not. You're right. Just life is crazy, and I think that's also by design. That I don't think I'm alone here, right? A lot of people just are very uncertain about the future. We don't know who's going to get elected. I don't really know. Is this financial system going to collapse? Is it going to keep going for another 10 years, or like, what's the deal? And so it makes it very hard to plan and just build a life, basically. I think they want people unbalanced. It makes them easier to sell products to and easier to market to. And when you're in a world of uncertainty and you don't know what's going to happen in your life, well, you end up making less good decisions, I would say. At least I know that from myself. You're just trying to get to that next mark, right? Pay the bills for that month. Just get over the finish line. You end up not actually planning properly for the future because there's just too much stress right in front of you, right? You're just trying to put food on the table, and I think a lot of people are in that position. But a lot of what this show has always been about is trying to transcend that, you know, get above the line so you can start making intelligent decisions and doing things that make you better, make you stronger, more, what would I say, like impervious to the madness that is going to obviously intensify over the coming years. You really gotta armor up your mind so you don't get totally wrecked. Because it's pretty clear to me that the disease that happened this year, that was just sort of the beginning. And I think we all remember how damaging that was, how scarring that was, especially at the beginning, and how horrible it remains. How difficult it is actually to live in this new weird society where everybody is just acting kind of weird. They say weird things, they react weirdly to different situations, you know, where things used to just be chill. You gotta armor up your mind. So that's, you know, that's my piece there. It's good to see. Who is that? Ronnie Nunez? Hi, Ronnie Nunez. It's your first time on the live stream, and I appreciate that. Thanks for coming by. You may actually be, I don't know if you're still there, but thanks for checking in, dude. Like literally every tiny millisecond of consciousness that you guys are willing to offer me, it means a lot. And I wish you the best, you know? This is sort of the postlude. And now I'm out. Take it easy, guys. Keep it real. And,
Fake truth. Fake truth is out.
I'm out.
I'm out too.
Well, you better stop the stream then. Just
Okay, alright.